Thank you, everyone, calling into order the March 15th, 2022 meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust, 6:03 p.m. Welcome back, everyone.
And I think we need to read the remote meeting instructions, which are in keeping with an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law by Governor Baker on June 16th, 2021. This meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board commission members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count toward quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT, and also that emergency law was amended and extended in February.
Yeah. Do I need to read that, or you? That's
no,
good.
I think we're not.
All righty.
It's technicality.
Got it. And that was extended, by the way, through June or April?
June, I think, like July 1 or something.
Okay.
And later on in the agenda, we'll probably be chatting. We should probably start meeting at least monthly. And after this meeting, we might want a meeting in another couple of weeks to keep some things moving. But we should probably figure out a regular schedule. And it might become in-person meetings later on in the year. So.
Very good. All righty. So I will I have the agenda up, and I assume the very first agenda item, without looking at it right now, is to approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was November 9th, 2021. Thank you, Wayne, for sending them around. Has everyone had a chance to review?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
And who is the motion?
Nikki made the motion. Amy seconded.
Thank you.
And then you have to do the roll call.
It has to be a roll call. You're supposed to state your last name and yes or no.
Dostumian, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Sheedy, yes.
Alves, yes.
Thank you. Perfect.
All right. And there's my agenda. Sorry, I'm on a tiny little laptop.
Yeah.
And monitor. Going back and forth.
Yeah, I'm doing this from the office because my work laptop at home is very small, and I'm like, I can't see all the documents.
Oh, it's the worst. Okay, well, next is the MBTA communities update discussion. So, no, I can't find Zoom. Sorry, I'm just trying to minimize this. Okay, so are we, Wayne, do you want us to just go over what the MBTA communities?
Sure, yeah, if you have a summary, or I could give a quick summary, whichever is easier.
I think your summary would probably be a little bit more graceful than mine.
I'll try, thank you.
All right.
So about a year or so ago, the state passed and the governor signed an economic development bill, and part of it, section 3A of it, was a requirement that all 170 some MBTA communities in Eastern Massachusetts have to adopt a zoning district of at least 50 acres that allows by right, with no other restrictions, multifamily zoning at a density of 15 units per acre. And there are various little things that go on in that. You know, it can be one 25-acre unit subzone, and 5 acres in other parts of town, as long as you have 50 acres. And your unit count has to be about 10% of your year-round housing. So for Easton, that would be 913 units. It's not a requirement to actually produce them. You just have to be able to demonstrate that the zoning would allow them to be built as of right. So it can include already built multifamily developments, such as Avalon or Washington Village. They can be included within that district.
And it must include a 25-acre or
exactly
at least one minimum 25-acre parcel, right?
Exactly so, yeah. And there are different levels of being an MBTA community, whether you have like subway service or a commuter rail station or a bus station.
Or adjacent.
Yeah, we are, Easton is considered an adjacent community, so therefore it's only the 10% unit requirement. So ahead of that, there's a series of things you need to do for interim compliance. There's a set of draft guidelines that the Department of Housing and Community Development has issued and posted on the website. So the select board in Easton is being very proactive about this, has appointed a implementation review team of which Nikki, as the Affordable Housing Trust chair, is a member. They meet every other Thursday in the mornings at 9 o'clock through the end of this month and possibly longer. And their charge is, to understand the guidelines, to make questions and comments, to submit to DHCD by the end of this month. So the group is putting that together and finalizing it at tomorrow morning's meeting, submitting it to the select board, who will then, sort of endorse it and submit it on behalf of the town to DHCD. This review team is exploring 6 potential areas in which to locate parts of the district. And they're essentially centered on already existing multifamily housing developments or commercial plazas that could potentially be redeveloped while still retaining commercial properties and uses. So they're looking at the area around the Roach Brothers Plaza, the area around the intersection of Main and Washington. I think that's like Village Shops or something, that plaza. They're looking at the area around Avalon and Highland Plaza. They're looking at the area around downtown Easton, and I cannot remember the other one. I think there's 6 of them. So, the discussions are ongoing, doing the analysis and making recommendations. So I think the point of tonight's meeting is to bring it to the Affordable Housing Trust's attention, to encourage you as trust board members to sort of understand it. And then I think a set of action items for the trust going forward will be being involved in, analyzing it, in advocating for affordable housing as a component of it, for family-friendly housing as a component of it. So I think the Affordable Housing Trust will certainly have a meaningful role in the public comment period, over this summer. There's going to be some public meetings to discuss it as it gets a little more developed. And the plan for now is to hopefully bring some form of this zoning to town meeting in May of 2023. So that's the rough timeline.
Thank you, Wayne.
You bet. So is there any, do any of you folks have any questions, or if you want to ping me or Nikki, there's some other materials that we might be able to, share that could be of interest.
Do you want me to, I was going to say, do you want me to share what Dottie was mentioning about the concern about, or why there was no inclusion of affordable units in the
that I think was more of a something to think about, and that's getting a little far down in the weeds. So what the state is envisioning is just as of right zoning with no bells or whistles, because the more things you hang on to zoning, the more infeasible it becomes to actually implement. That said, there are several things that we understand one can require in the zoning overlay. So, you have to demonstrate that you can produce at that density as of right, realistically. You can't like stick it in a swamp. And you can have an inclusionary zoning component. That is something that you can do. And so what Nikki has brought up, and it's making its way into the planning, is for affordability to parallel the affordability requirements of 40B. 25% of units affordable to households making 80% or below area median income, as just a very easy, quick way of having that continuity in a system and program and structure that everyone understands in the state, because people know what the affordability requirements for 40B are. There's like an infrastructure in place for that. What Nikki's referencing is Dottie said that your add-ons cannot make things infeasible to develop. So you can't say, all the units have to be affordable, which then means a developer will never actually be able to build them. So as you're sort of making these points or looking at things to put into the zoning, all of which would have to be sort of pre-approved by DHCD. So that's where it really touches on the Affordable Housing Trust. Another thing is you can have mixed use as a requirement. You can require a percentage of the square footage to be for commercial uses, because if you're going to put this on, a shopping plaza, you don't want it to then, turn into nothing but apartments, and then you lose your stores and your commercial uses. So that's definitely another thing. Something that we're also thinking about is, a requirement for a certain minimum of 3-bedroom or more units. 40B just requires 10%. There may be an interest in seeing if we could have a minimum requirement of more than just the 10%. The intent is that you cannot prohibit family-friendly housing, but we also don't want to have a situation where developers are only proposing, 1-bedrooms or, studios or something, because there's, as this group well knows, a critical need for family housing and also affordable family housing. So these are some of the factors that are part of the conversation. And in some of the advanced materials, there's also you'll see links to the state website, which has a wealth of information. It has the frequently asked questions that is updated periodically. It has text of the law, all sorts of other stuff. So if you can really dig in and find out a lot more about it.
So you don't need us to do anything at this point in time.
Not at this point. This is something I think it's potentially going to be a significant planning initiative in the town with affordability and family-friendly component to it. So I think there will be a role for the Affordable Housing Trust to really be involved in the public outreach part of it as that develops, and hoping to get a good affordability component and family-friendly component into the bylaw that goes to town meeting and hopefully gets passed, depending on how all the public meetings shake out and what the final shape of the zoning and the potential areas ends up looking like, which is very, very loose at this point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wayne, this just started. So other communities are doing the same thing, right? No one has even gotten to, yeah, okay. And is there any, is there any assistance there, or is anyone meeting? Is it, working together or?
No, once again, Easton finds itself at the, at the leading edge of being proactive about this stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, my boss, Stephanie, and I have a meeting with someone from Mass Housing Partnership about possible technical assistance.
Yeah.
Because right now what's actually offered doesn't really fit Easton's needs, and it's not on a timeline that's particularly useful either. So we're seeing, could we get grants for somewhat of a more fine-grained analysis? If there's like, say, 6 potential areas, we're looking at all 6 or 4 or 2 or something. But you also want commercial. What does that look like? How do you sort of do a feasibility understanding of your density and ownership townhouses? Are they, multi-story condos? Are they multi-story rentals? It's what do you imagine these areas actually looking like in a way that meets Easton's needs and fulfills the requirements of the law? And that's where things can get a little technical, and it would be helpful to have somebody who actually knows how to analyze different scenarios.
Mhm.
So we're hoping we can get something, but we may not be able to. We don't know.
Okay.
And I've heard anecdotally that most other towns are nowhere near Easton's level of being, proactive. I think, and Nikki can correct me, I think this was a January, February thing, right? Our first meeting, I believe, was either late January or early February. They went to the select board, and then we had that famous, 7 a.m. meeting.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
I think that was February. And there is a
Yeah.
deadline. What's the deadline for this?
There's several internal deadlines. There's
Yes.
the comments are due by the end of this month. Then there's something else that we have to do. I think we have to submit our action plan. That's another thing that this group is working on. And I think that's due in May. And that's virtually done. And then for an adjacent community, we're required to have the zoning in place in 2024.
That's what I was.
But since there's so much interest and momentum, we're looking to bring
Yeah.
it to town meeting in 2023.
Definitely. I was just thinking that might be, as you indicated, Easton is definitely on the more proactive side of this, which is good. But maybe the deadline of implementing this being 2024 might be a reason for some of the other towns to be less proactive. Sorry, very
Yeah.
loud.
Yes. I think there are many children in people's backgrounds. And you're probably sitting there thinking, wow, glad it's not my house. But yeah, I suspect that a lot of other towns will be looking at Easton's example, probably. So
Wayne, I just have a question because I just see it's highlighted in blue that if you don't comply, you then become ineligible for MassWorks and community choice funding. Can you tell me what that is? And
sure. So community housing choice, Easton is a housing choice community. You may remember that I was serving people up, and that's you produce a certain number of housing units. You're become designated housing choice community. You're therefore eligible to apply for grants, which Easton has been designated twice, has gotten 2 grants that we're using on planning for infrastructure. So that's all great. And I feel like we missed somebody, or did we just hop around?
do we?
I guess we just moved around. I don't think we're actually missing anyone. But my screen changed. I found it disorienting. I'm sorry. And this is getting very detailed and too fine-grained for your question. I'm sorry. With the housing choice designation, it's for 2 years. Because of this whole MBTA communities thing, it's actually been extended so we can be a housing choice community for 5 years. So Easton now has a couple more years. So that's one of the things we're looking at. Can we apply for another housing choice grant to help with some of the planning? But the timeline is probably more like fall, which is a little late for us. MassWorks is the biggie. That is the state infrastructure funding where you get like 1.2 million to put in a sewer plant or a water plant or something. Road improvements is a biggie. It's often like bridges and stuff or MassWorks grants.
Okay.
And in some of the training and education sessions that the state has done, they've been very clear that you will not be eligible for these grants, the MassWorks, the housing choice, but also your status as an MBTA compliant or non-compliant community will be factored into your ranking and preference for other state grants.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the possibility that other state grants will be added into the required list. We don't know. That's
sure. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then Stephanie actually, my boss Stephanie, not our colleague Stephanie, put together a list of the grants we've gotten as Easton in the last several years, which was pretty interesting. It's, several $1 million. It's
right.
Yeah, it's actually kind of real. Yeah, here we go. Look at me being able to find electronic.
You
files.
found it?
I did. Yeah, this is extremely rare, but here it is. Yeah, so 4.95 million. In 2011, we got $1 million Mass Works for roadway stuff in Northeastern Village. 2013, we got money for intersection at Belmont and Washington. In 2017, we got Mass Works for 1.5 on Main Street. We got a Housing Choice Capital in 2019 at 225 for Five Corners Sewer. We got 225 as another Housing Choice Capital for Foundry Street planning, for roadway improvements. We got a Complete Streets grant for 400 at Lincoln Street sidewalks. And then one little note. Avalon, for example, has generated about $844,000 in annual tax revenue as a way that these sorts of investments actually spark economic growth.
Mhm. Vital. Okay. Yep.
So,
Okay. Thank you for that.
yeah, you bet. Yeah, so we'll probably have this as a just a regular item for future meetings, and like I said, as public outreach and meetings ramp up over the summer, I'm sure there'll be more of a role for the trust's involvement and outreach and advocacy.
All right. We ready to move on to Pequannock in Morse Road RFP?
Yes, ma'am.
Alrighty. So I believe the action item on that tonight, we'll discuss this, Wayne. And by the end, you're hoping to have, I don't want to speak for you, so.
Thank you. Yeah, so one of the many massive things I dropped on you last night, as I was joking with Nikki earlier, I'm sure everyone read every single page in great detail, was the RFP for Pequannock and Morse. And it's essentially just an updated version of the RFP that this group did for the Electric Avenue project. And I'm looking for two things tonight, sort of an informal sense from the group that, yeah, it's fine. And I'll finalize it, get town council to bless it. I'll get it posted to Central Register and combis and the newspaper advertisements, and make sure the entities most likely to be responsive are aware of it, and all that good stuff. And then the second thing is, you may remember from the Electric Avenue RFP, with public procurement, there's various things you have to do. There's the publishing and posting and so forth. But there's also, I think it's called the RFP Review Committee. You may remember that the Affordable Housing Trust asked that the trust be designated as the review team, for the RFP. I think it was like the RFP Response Review Team. And I'm looking for the exact term that we used. So if the group is amenable tonight, a vote for us to ask to be designated the RFP review team, so that we can sort of have a formal letter, that goes to the town administrator. Let me see, RFP. Yeah, review committee. Yes. So this would be a request to the chief procurement officer, which is the town administrator, to appoint the Affordable Housing Trust Board of Directors as the 26 Pequannock Avenue and 10 Morse Road RFP Response Review Committee.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
So I guess it's advised that we put both of these things on the same RFP?
Very much so, yeah.
Any particular reason why?
Some of the potential respondents, and Nikki and I were talking about this earlier, a couple of over the past few months, we want them both to go so that we don't get stalled out. And in terms of getting interest from potential nonprofit developers and ensuring that they have they look at both. And then one of the more likely responders has indicated that they have capacity to do both.
Okay. Just curious.
And I tried to write it to give some flexibility in the response. Looking at it, 26 Pequannock is an undersized parcel. So a 2-family is probably not really feasible there, but it would be nice to see something more than just 3 bedrooms, because there are families that have, multiple children and could use more bedrooms. And then for 10 Morse, it's such a big site. It would be a good place for a 2-family, but that is a special permit, which the planning board commonly does in fact grant. They usually do not deny special permits where a good case is made for them. So we would like to encourage them to pursue a special permit for a 2-family at 10 Morse, but also allow some flexibility so that if they don't actually get the special permit, they can still go ahead.
So you just need a motion for us to authorize the RFP to be issued and to set up designate us as the RFP review.
I don't know that we need a vote, but as town council advised in previous things, it's like when in doubt, take a vote. We're here. So, a motion and a second to, issue the RFP in its substantial current form.
I will make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And roll call vote.
Easton, yes.
Sheedy, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Alves, yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
And then I'm making notes. Thank you. And then a second motion and vote to, what was the term of art I had here? A motion and a second to request the Chief Procurement Officer appoint the Affordable Housing Trust Board of Directors as the 26 Pequannock Avenue, 10 Morse Road RFP Response Review Committee.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call.
Easton, yes.
Sheedy, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Alves, yes.
Love it. Thank you. Review. My handwriting is terrible.
You ready to move on to the 123-page housing action plan?
Yes, ma'am.
Righty. Pulling that up right now. So, where are we at with this, Wayne? We are,
Badly stalled out.
yeah.
So, as folks have seen, you may remember the previous housing production plan was about 35 pages. This iteration, done by a different contractor, Old Colony Planning Council, is north of 120 pages, which is huge. We've asked them to try and cut it down to something in the 30 to 40 page range, so it's actually more useful. My boss and I, Stephanie, are hoping to meet in the next few days to give some specific pointers to make it a more focused and usable document. Moving forward from that would be a joint meeting on some more final version of this with the Old Colony folks and this group. then a actual public meeting at which we would want to have the planning board and select board, as many members as possible, attend, because ultimately, once it's finalized, it has to be approved and endorsed by the planning board and then the select board and then submitted to the state. So we would want to make sure that the planning board and the select board are involved in that public meeting, so that they can comment and their comments and concerns can be addressed in the final version. So I think probably the most productive thing for us to do now, and this can be this meeting or on your own individual recognizance later, in the draft, there's just a vast amount of demographic info and so on and so forth, and they rolled in a bunch of stuff from the age-friendly plan that they did for the town and so on. But I think maybe the most interesting or the most useful or germane thing for us is all the implementation strategies stuff. Excuse me. Which, gosh, I mean, there's a chart that shows up down on page 27 or something. There's the housing goals on page 26. Yeah, so chapter 2 is housing goals and strategies. And yeah, so it's the housing goals and then the strategies and implementation. I talked with Nikki and some other folks, and some of these I think are just not really suitable or ill-conceived for Easton, or things we already do. So I think that's really the biggest part for us to focus our efforts on. And I don't know if folks have looked at that and have any thoughts about that tonight, or if we want to kick that to a future meeting. And we've talked about monthly meetings, but would we want to have a meeting in, say, 2 weeks or something to talk specifically about the housing production plan?
So Wayne, can you just remind me, it was November that we last, I believe, right? And there was also a public comment. There was a public hearing.
Yeah, there was a public meeting last fall. And then we got this actually just before the end of the year. We did get this sort of a late November, before the holidays, and it's vast expanse. And I struggled with it for a month or two, and sent it back with some comments. And my boss Stephanie and I were just, it's this needs a whole reconception.
Okay. And our current housing production plan, I believe, is due to expire in January. So did we get an extension on that? Is that how it works?
No, we do not have an accepted and approved housing production plan.
Okay.
So yeah, so that is sort of a technical concern, but not a real concern.
Okay.
So the technical concern is the way a town is officially immune from unfriendly 40B proposals is that you have an accepted housing production plan, and you are making progress towards your housing production plan goals by building either a 0.5% or 1% of your own housing units as subsidized housing inventory compliant units per year, and then that gives you a 1 or 2 year safe harbor period.
Mm-hmm.
In Easton's case, we're actually over the 10%. We're at 10.3%, so we theoretically don't actually have to do anything because we're at 10%, is one thing. The second thing is with our census numbers that will go up, but not by a ton. And since the census numbers aren't finalized for this purpose, we're still using the 2010 census numbers. That's an official thing we've been told. And also we have a friendly 40B at Blackledge on Union Street under consideration at 108 units, which is it's an active application that's going through the Board of Appeals right now. So in the highly unlikely event that we would get an unfriendly 40B application, which is not going to happen, we would make the case that we're over 10%. We have a draft housing production plan. We have a 40B under consideration right now. Therefore, we would like to deny this unfriendly 40B. And that would probably carry. But there's nothing that anyone knows on the horizon. Obviously, in the next few months, we would like to finalize the housing production plan and getting
Sure. Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. So I don't know if anyone had a chance to actually look at it, if they have any comments on it at the moment, or do we want to try and set something up for ourselves and possibly invite Old Colony to a meeting in a week or two?
Right. I haven't been able to look at it, and I would, so yeah, if that, I don't know if you want to just have the meeting with just them about this, or would you rather just, obviously there's something we can all meet.
Yeah, I think with just them about this.
Okay.
As a way to really sort of get it started again, some of that has been on me that, I saw the 128 pages and I'm like, I have no idea what to do with this. And it needs a sort of a reconcept. And like I said, I think for us, obviously the demographic info and stuff is all very interesting. But for us, the big thing is what are we actually going to be recommending that the town do? What are some of our strategies? And in this draft, they just sort of pulled a lot of stuff off the shelf, a lot of which doesn't actually apply to us, a lot of which we actually already do or have done. So it's not, a lot of it isn't actually relevant or useful specifically to our situation. So that needs, I think, a lot more conversating.
So can we have them clean it up before we meet with them?
Hopefully. And if not, then maybe we have a couple of meetings like every other week to get it cleaned up. I mean, that might be what it takes. I sort of keep hoping that, putting it back will come with a shorter, but I'm like, okay, no. So that's, why we've asked them, can you cut this thing down to like, 30 or 40 pages or something? And then hopefully, I can meet with Stephanie and the planning director, and I can give them like focused, here are some things you need to do, so they actually have something that they can act on. And that could be something that we try to bring to them in the next few days, so that when they meet with this group in the next couple of weeks, it will be a revised version, maybe. But I think some more meetings with the trust might be what it takes to actually move this, because it's been stalled for a bit.
Do they have access to our recently expired?
They do, yeah.
What were they being paid for this?
They're being paid 30 grand. And they're the only group that responded to our repeated requests to find a contractor to do the work.
Have they been paid their 30 grand? I would assume not until it's finalized.
No, and that's something they offered in their initial contract. It's like, pay us when it's done. So
is there possible money motivation?
I think it's their project lead may not be really familiar with putting together these plans. I think people are super busy. The pandemic hasn't really helped folks. And I think some clear guidance and goals and action items from this group could really help focus the efforts and get a more concise and implementable plan. So I think we can get there, but we're going to have to pay pay more attention to the process and work a little more closely with the consultants. So
you're proposing we meet with them at this for a couple times to kind of give them better direction.
Once, if not twice, yeah, meet in a couple of weeks. And, at that meeting, hopefully we would have a better version. Because, like I said, what I'm trying to do, backwards planning, the state adopts it, the select board adopts it, the planning board adopts it. You have this big public meeting where you get all this input. When I put this thing up on the website and put out the invites for this big public meeting, I would like it to be in much better shape than it is now, and also much shorter. I, as an engaged resident, am not going to look at a 120-page document and have anything intelligent to say about it in a public meeting.
I, as an engaged board member of the Affordable Housing Trust, have no interest in reading a 120-page document.
Yeah. It needs to be much more concise. And I think, and I can work with them on the next iteration and get some more feasible and focused, implementation strategies and goals, I think. But I think it would be helpful if we met just with them to try and advance it before we start posting things and have a big public meeting.
But you feel like they're not responding to you and Stephanie's requests to kind of pare this down? Because I feel like it's kind of crazy for us to meet with them and talk about a 120-page document that
yes,
we're not interested.
We pitched it to them maybe 2 weeks ago. Please cut it down. Stephanie and I, with this whole MBTA communities thing and everything else going on, we haven't actually had a chance to put together a little list of like action items for them. So in their defense, they might be waiting for clearer guidance from the planning department. And I think having sort of meeting deadlines encourages people to actually produce. So I think if we say, hi there, we're meeting in 2 weeks. We're hoping it'll be substantially trimmed down and condensed. And, here are some pointers from the planning department. When can we get the next draft so we can send it to the board ahead of the meeting?
So you're thinking to aim for April?
To have a meeting with them, I think, right? Like, what is this, the 15th?
15th, like do the first week in April.
Yeah,
Get our
so
first meeting.
22nd, the 29th. I know, what dates work for people. I know that this is a bit of an outlier because Stephanie's got a spring break week.
Okay. Do you remember offhand what works for Sam and Jen? Okay, so if
I don't. I think why are you doing this to me? I think Samantha said something about either Thursdays are best or Thursdays are worst. Let me see.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're still in March, early April, that's before the couple things are starting, but let me see.
Let's see if this gets me here. She says, Samantha says, I can most likely make any evening Monday to Thursday work. Just as her general response to regular meetings. And then as she said, and I think we all agree, having a regular schedule we can plan around for our monthly meetings would be really helpful for folks.
5 o'clock too early?
Early is good for me.
Yeah.
I
If five,
think Sam might need to go a bit later.
okay. I could make 5 o'clock work basically. I mean, I'm pretty good for up till mid-April. I've got the 5 to 6 o'clock hour pretty covered. Like I can make something like that work. pretty easily, but I'll do, I'll do what we need to do to make one of them work.
Okay. So I'm hearing,
How are
So-
Wednesdays?
yeah,
Stephanie, are you back? Are you available Wednesdays?
Wednesdays, I'm in school. So right now I'm in school Monday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays.
Okay.
I'm available Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Okay. That's helpful. All right. So
I'm on vacation the week of the 10th.
good for you.
And then when I come back, I have a housing authority meeting at 5 o'clock on the, what is that, Tuesday, the
12th.
19th. So I'm not available until the 20th.
But you could be available Tuesday, March 29th.
I could do Tuesday the 29th.
I could do Tuesday, the 29th as well. And you were saying somebody, it was more 5 to 6 would be good? Is that, or,
That works
I don't
easier
know.
for me. Works
Oh.
easier for me.
I already have a commitment that evening, but
That's okay. The 29th. What about the 31st?
mm,
Versus
I-
the Thursday.
That's a
Yeah, that
Thursday.
Thursday, the 31st.
that I'm free.
Can you back up?
Works for me.
yeah, I have something on the 31st. I could be in my car, but it's not ideal, but I could do it.
So we could do like 5 or 6 on the 31st. Amy could join by car, phone.
Would a
Wouldn't be the
different time be
first
better, Amy? Would it like 6 o'clock be better or?
It's at 6, so
Got you. So you'll be
6 would
traveling.
actually 6 or 6:30. 6 would probably be okay, actually.
And 5 would probably not work because presumably you're driving.
Yeah, I have to get there. Right. Yeah.
All right, so like 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 31st.
hmm Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So I will see if the consultant can join a meeting at 6 p.m. on Thursday, March 31st. Everyone here, so we can definitely get a quorum at bare minimum. And hopefully Ernso and Sam can join as well, and Jen. Okay, and then ahead of that, we will try to get a condensed and updated version of the housing production plan to center the conversation around. And this group will obviously be looking at the entire thing, and for accuracy and usability and such, with a particular focus on the goals and strategies and things to pursue. Thank you.
Yeah, that should work. If you guys want to do the 29th, that's fine too. It just won't be.
If the 31st doesn't work, we can offer the 29th up too.
Yeah. We can just figure out where you're going to be, Chris Ann, and just sit out in the parking lot or something and talk really loudly.
We'll find you.
All right.
No.
No, okay.
Not an option.
Wait.
Sorry.
For purposes of us reviewing the document here, should we wait until we get the condensed version? Is it worth it for us to go through the strategies right now, or are you going to strike a bunch of them that are just not even?
I have already struck.
Oh.
So I've
okay.
done track changes in the thing I sent, and there are a few things in
Oh,
there.
okay.
Oh, no.
Okay. We
So
can see
you could
those,
maybe, go ahead.
I couldn't see this stricken.
Okay, it might be a little further down, the first few pages, but like once you get down into the chapter 2 section.
It should be redlined. There's a lot that's.
Yeah, I took a machete to big chunks of it.
Okay. All right. So that we don't. Okay.
Yeah, so you can sort of get a sense of where we're starting from with this effort.
Okay, focusing on chapter 2, because
Yeah,
I
think
mean,
that's
hopefully they
probably-
don't.
Go ahead.
Hopefully they don't, it would be nice to have it a few days beforehand. So I know you can only do what you can do, but
Yes,
right,
and of course,
you
I'm
know.
the one who just like dumped everything on you guys last night at 6 o'clock.
yeah, well, it's all, don't,
So I
worries,
cannot
I don't mean
actually
that.
throw stones, but yeah.
but yeah, be good.
Okay, thank you. Yes, all right.
Okay, so you'll let us know about that, Wayne, if they're able to meet with us then. And then I believe the next agenda item, and I'm going off memory, is the because now my computer's not really working, was the first time home buyers assistance. Is that
Yeah,
item?
and we can talk about it tonight. I'm starting to feel a little bit faded after an hour of this, but it's not working. The program is not usable.
No wonder either. I mean,
yeah, it is the most generous down payment grant in the state, $95,000, 35% of the market rate, whichever is lower. And even with that, the market rate price is so high, and offers are accepted and under agreement so quick after a bidding war that the couple of very bright, competent folks that were eligible and participating could not make it work.
yeah.
So it's not really a sort of an operator error. It's like,
It was already a Goldilocks situation, and now the home prices are making it almost, I mean, if not almost impossible.
Yeah, and and this is a little bit more detailed, but so you have to have an affordability restriction, and the affordable sale price, depending on number of bedrooms and whether it's a house or condo or something, but that is determined by DHCD, calculated on what 80% area median income household can pay for their monthly mortgage, housing payments that are only about a third, or say 38% of their income. And anyway, where it all shakes out is for a 3-bedroom single family house, the affordable sale price is like $225 to $250. And that matters because your mortgage has to be below, like a bank is not going to give you a mortgage that's above the resale price of the house. So, there's sort of a level above which you just can't do it, even if you're making just under the threshold of the 80%, for your household, your mortgage still has to be like, 200-ish or something, or 220. And with the way the prices are, that's not even going to get you to the market rate price. So I'm not really sure what to do with this program. It has in the past worked really well for a narrow range of households, mostly single moms, with very sort of middle of the road jobs who just want a steady place to live. It's worked out quite well for them. But with housing prices now, it's not working. So, I don't know if we want to have a deeper, more considered conversation. Do we have massively increased grants? Keeping in mind that our annual allocation from CPA, which is not always assured, we have to ask for it, and the CPC can decide to allocate it to the trust or not, is about $200,000. That's the 10% of Easton's CPA.
What's sitting in that budget right now?
Right now, I think we've got like 800 or something. I'd have to look and get something updated.
In the first time home buyers grant?
Oh, the first time home buyers. Well, we've got, we did this allocation months and months ago to cover 2 potential, the folks who were enrolled at the time at $95,000. So it's, whatever that is, 180 or something. But
So you're thinking we need to work that money back out of that program and put it back
Or
into
do we
something else?
just have it, just know that it's something that's gonna sit there and not be usable? And then come back when and if housing prices moderate, if they ever do? Do we reconsider, would it make sense to have much larger grant amounts? But then that's like the entire annual allocation for the trust, for one. Do we, there's sort of any number of ways to do. Do we just, end it because it's not really workable and never will be?
So if you end it, can you start it up again?
We could, yeah, I mean, we could do whatever we want with the trust, we could just suspend
Pause
it.
it, suspend it.
Yeah, so, I maybe, think about it and maybe we re-engage at the next meeting or a meeting after that or something.
Okay.
Wayne, what's happening with the rental assistance program? That was something that came up during the pandemic, remember? And that was something that we were able to do.
We did a fantastic job.
Yeah,
We
but
feel
it's ended.
extremely proud. It's done. We
Okay.
helped, I think, 34 households.
Wow, nice.
We allocated all 250 grand that was appropriated. That went out the door. In fact, even more went because so you remember we contracted with Metro West Collaborative Development, I think that was the name, to actually administer it, to do the qualifications and so forth. And they got additional grants, so they were able to actually provide rental assistance for Easton resident participants in excess of the 250. And their administrative cost was actually incredibly modest. They took a very, very small cut. We got a sort of a memo, and yeah, let me find that because we've got a little summary from them. In my abundant spare time, I'm hoping in the next several months that we could do, remember a few years ago before the pandemic, we did sort of a presentation with a slideshow to the select board about all the great things the trust has been doing. And I think there's interest in doing that again, and this would be part of it. But obviously we're like super busy right now, so maybe that's a fall thing. I don't know. But yeah, that would definitely be part of it. But let me see if I can find that, if you'll bear with me.
So does it have to stop?
We're out of money, and the critical need has passed. If we want to redo it, there is an administrative burden that I do not think I myself am qualified to actually do.
Yeah.
With the sort of income qualifying people, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all sorts of very detailed, fair housing, federal and state laws that go around that as well. So you have to really kind of know what you're doing, which is why we contracted with Metro West.
Right.
But rental assistance grant program. Final reports and payment. Look at that. Okay, this might be the fastest way. Yeah, so we contracted with Metro West, so they had an administrative fee. Our contract for their administrative fee was $40,550. The total administrative fees they billed were $18,200. And that's because a lot of the households they helped, they recertified them every 3 months. They didn't have to go through the whole process again. And since they'd already done it, they were like, we're not going to charge you. So it was really modest administrative costs. And they provided, so the total amount of rental assistance provided, not including administrative fees, was $253,349. So not including admin fees, our 250 actually leveraged 253,000 in direct rental assistance. And that's because the contractor got other grants from some other sources that they could roll into this. So, and then on the, what did we do? Yeah, this is the money. And then we have another thing that has a breakdown, and I think it was like 34 households with 80 some individuals. Let me see if it's here. There's that. Computers are so slow. As I mentioned in my email, Town Hall's computers and email were down completely all day yesterday, so that was really fun. Yeah, okay, so 35 households were enrolled. That included 84 people, of which 37 were children. 10 of the households had one or more resident over 55. 27 households received assistance for 6 to 9 months. And about 46%, roughly half of the participating landlords were individuals. So this went to, it also in a way was somewhat of, income support for the very small, mom and pop landlords who actually need the income from their tenants rather than large corporate landlords. And the balance were, of course, the larger developments. Yeah, so it was really a great program. Used all the money and helped 35 households and 80 some people. So go us, go Affordable Housing Trust.
Well, I know for so many years that we were told, right, that we couldn't, because there wasn't an affordability restriction attached to it, right, because it's rental, we couldn't. So
yeah, and this was a new thing. And we couldn't do our grants. Remember, we had those small grants to help income qualified homeowners. And that was the thing the Department of Revenue would not let us do, because you have to have an affordability restriction with it. And, you're not going to do a long-term affordability restriction for $5,000 to replace your bathroom,
Yeah.
So that is really frustrating, because that really did help mostly seniors,
Yeah.
Get their houses.
So is the guidance that is, it's okay now? Or was it just because of the pandemic? Do you?
I don't know. I think it's, and I think it's the anti-aid amendment thing, because this is not providing, an improvement to something you own, but it's like assistance to an income qualified person rental. So, so I think that's
Something
why.
about it, it would keep people. I forget. Actually, I was gonna volunteer to maybe check in on that with DOR, but
Oh, to see if we could like maybe try and restart if they've had like a change of heart, or our small grant program
or
for
if anybody
homeowners.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
change of administration soon, even though this was preceding this administration, but we'll see.
Yeah, that would be nice. It was so popular, and it was short money, and it really touched a lot of lives and helped a lot of folks. So if DOR could find their way to, allowing it under the anti-aid amendment.
Okay.
Because I think our pitch then, and we're going like way into the weeds here, but I believe our pitch was, it would be, we could recapture it upon sale if need be. If they were really concerned about giving public money to increase the value of private property, then we could have something written into it such that upon sale of the property, we get our $4,500 back or something, if that was really the concern. And they wouldn't even entertain that. So
I remember that, yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good memory. Good memory.
It's scary. It just like all filters up.
Yeah.
You don't think it's there, and then it shows up again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe think a little bit about the home buyer assistance grant program, and if we should suspend it, just cancel it outright. If we should consider a way to totally rework it, I suspect we will probably land on suspending or ending it and then restarting it, should the world change.
I wonder if there's like conversations we could have with DHCD or DOR or something that would, talk about how these two programs were so helpful and
Yeah.
forced into suspension. And with other emergency projects that have come up, we've been able to help people. And maybe, I don't know. I don't really know exactly what the solution is. If it's legislative or regulatory, some kind of reissuance of guidance. I don't know, but
Yeah.
maybe down the line we could have that conversation.
Yeah, it would be nice to try and re-engage because it was so popular, the whole program.
I wouldn't mind doing that. It's kind of similar to what I do for work. So I interact with those kind of agencies. So Wayne, I can give you a call and I'll get a little bit more.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I also realized I've stopped taking notes, so I'm going to be rewatching myself on video to do the notes. Yay.
Well, I'm losing light in here. I'm losing light. So
Yeah, it's getting very dark, Nikki.
yeah. Is the next up the Citizen?
It is. Yeah.
Citizens Academy?
And that is, so there's a link in the agenda, and the background is, you can apply and be enrolled in the Citizens Academy and do these things and go see town departments and go to town meeting and then go to boards and commissions. The intent is, and these are my words, not the town's, so this is not an official what the town is saying, recruiting a farm team. Who's going to be on the boards and commissions of the future? This is a New England towns mostly are run by town meeting and volunteer boards and commissions. And, how do you get just average citizens of the town, especially younger folks, some more representative folks, to become involved, to go to board and commission meetings, to become, board members, commission members, to go to town meeting, and sort of like looking ahead. It's sort of an opportunity of how do you really get engaged and chart your own future and run your own community. So to that end, I think the applications are technically due in the next week or two. I think March 25th or something, I don't know. But if, folks want to send this out in your social media to your contacts, hey, you say you're interested in getting more involved, look into this as a way of understanding what that looks like and how to affect change in your community. So put that out there. And there's various other things around that we've been talking about, and this is totally reversing to something earlier, the whole MBTA communities, when we're having these public meetings and these public outreach meetings, could they be someplace that makes it easier for people to come, not just town hall? Is it possible to have, to book the community room at Avalon, say, to have one of these meetings? And something I should send you is we got over 400 responses to the housing survey that we sent out. And there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. And one of the things is there's an awful lot of people who really don't like apartments. And I think it would be important to a constructive conversation to have all Easton residents able to participate in the conversation, and ways that we can make it more accessible for folks to fully participate. So that's one idea. But yeah, that's the Citizens Academy. So take a look at it and tell your friends. Please, thank you. And then I think next up is our meeting schedule for 2022, and maybe we can talk about that a little more at the meeting on the 31st. But it sounds like Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6-ish, seems to be where we're settling on some regular Tuesday or Thursday at 6 every month.
Make that work.
Hopefully, if it's my last semester, that schedule will hopefully end May 7th. So if maybe after that, then I will hopefully be available.
Mondays and Wednesdays are open. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be fun. And you were at the center there, Stephanie.
Oh.
You are the sun around which all those little planets are rotating.
Thanks, guys.
So, yeah, all right. I think we'll just maybe finalize when we're meeting, maybe at the meeting on the 31st. Maybe we'll have like more folks there and we can say affirmatively, yes, it's Tuesday, or, yes, it's Thursday or something. And we'll put that out. And also think about it, if we go back to being in person, what, place and what date and time actually works. If, you actually have to like drive yourself to town hall. So, well, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Sorry, it's getting kind of loud in here. Actually, just got a moment of silence. But
I think, are we done? Anything else?
I'm done. I think I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
It gets loud again. It's getting
And
loud.
who seconded?
Me.
Thank you, Chris Ann. All right, roll call vote, please.
Dastumian, yes.
Sheedy, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Al's, yes.
Thank you. Awesome. Thanks all. We'll see you in a couple weeks and I'll circulate an email and send it up.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thanks
Thanks
again.
for everything.
Thank you.
Be
Thanks,
well.
everyone.
And congratulations on the
Take
new
care.
edition.
Yes, congratulations.
Congrats, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
love meeting all.
It was so great.
Be well. Bye,
Amazing
Lisa.
you can even give us an hour's worth of time.
I know.
Yeah.
Take care, thanks.
Thank you.